I wanted to dip in because Senator Van Hollen's asking about the excessive drinking.
You agree, Director Patel, that if one of your agents was unable to perform his or her duties because of excessive drinking, you would need to take corrective or disciplinary action. You agree with that statement?
We would implement the inspection review process, just like these other agencies have their own internal investigations, and complete that review.
As I said in my opening remarks, I really don't care about your personal life so long as you are able to perform your public and official responsibilities, which are awesome responsibilities. Multiple reports, including reporting by The Atlantic, have alleged episodes of excessive drinking, unexplained absences, and behavior that concern current and former FBI and DOJ officials. You have publicly denied those allegations and filed a defamation lawsuit. So today, as you testify before Congress, is it your testimony that those allegations are categorically false?
Unequivocally, categorically false.
So there have been no occasions during your tenure when FBI personnel were unable to promptly reach you?
Absolutely not. You can ask my entire workforce. They hear from me at every single hour of the day, as do these great gentlemen here, as do the men and women of the interagency and state and local law enforcement and the White House.
And so there have been no occasions when your security detail had difficulty waking or locating you. Is that right?
Nope, it's a total farce. I don't even know where you get this stuff, but it doesn't make it credible because you say so.
I'm not saying it, Director Patel. It's been written and documented.
You are literally saying it.
No, I'm saying that these are reports, Director Patel.
No,
and
unlike your baseless reports, the only person that was slinging margaritas in El Salvador on the taxpayer dollar with a convicted gangbanging rapist was you.
You know,
the only person that ran up a $7,000 bar tab in Washington, D.C. at the lobby bar was you. So the only individual in this room that has been drinking on taxpayer dime during the day is you.
Director Patel, come on. These are serious allegations that were made against you. They're in a lawsuit that you filed.
You drinking margaritas with a gangbanger is true and on video.
It just goes to show you
running a $7,000 bar tab at the lobby bar has been filed by your own office.
This goes to show
during the day. That's you. This is the ultimate example of hypocrisy.
Mr. Chairman,
I will not be tarnished by baseless allegations and fraudulent statements from the media.
The fact that you mentioned that indicates you don't know what you are talking about. Now, here, Director
The only thing I know is you're the one drinking margaritas with felons.
Actually, that's a false statement, and I'm asking you about your statements.
I've answered that.
And I'm asking you about a particular report. And
it's not a report.
So let me ask you this. Are you willing to take the test, it's called the audit test, that members of our active duty military and others take to determine whether they have a drinking problem?
I'll take any test you're willing to take.
I will take it, Director Patel. I'll take it. You ready to take it?
Let's go.
Yes or no?
Let's go. Side by side.
I'll take it. All right. I think that the fact that you're so... Have you ordered polygraph tests of members of your team to determine how that story came about?
The FBI conducts polygraph tests all the time.
No, have you ordered polygraph tests for members of your team to determine who was the source of the stories that I'm asking you about?
I don't order any polygraph tests. There's an internal inspection review process for any and all leaks, especially of baseless information at the FBI, that's been in place for the last 30 years. Those processes are followed by career intelligence and agents on the ground.
So I'll take that as a yes, since you said that these were unauthorized disclosures. I have another round of questioning regarding your firing people who were important to gathering intelligence with respect to Iran, but I'll wait for my second round. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What we're doing to expand specifically at the FBI. For the first time ever, we stood up our LEPIC, our Law Enforcement Partner Engagement Council. So I didn't want to just hear from police officers from around the country by email and phone call. I embedded 10 officers and sheriffs and tribal officers permanently at the FBI because they're the best connected. And so for us, that's the best way forward, along with getting out into the field and making sure our field partners see and feel us and touch us and tell us what their problems are.
Thank you, Director.
Senator, more connectivity to our state, local, and tribal partners is the utmost importance at DEA. Due with the significant change in the landscape with synthetic opioids, with more methamphetamine pills coming in, more cocaine coming in, it's important that those state and local counterparts, the men and women that are on the front lines every single day, have the same intelligence and the same information that the DEA does. Part of this is coming from our capacity to build foreign partnerships. The amount of foreign partnerships and people we have downrange in Mexico and Colombia, that intel is critical to the beat officer that's working in rural areas. So we have to continue to be better partners, continue to be more engaged, and respond when they call for help to address violent criminal activity.
Director Seralto, I'm going to interrupt myself. I appreciate the work that you and the Marshal Service do to keep federal judges safe. But there's thousands of state and local judges who don't have the same intelligence network, the same resources. I'm proud to co-sponsor a bill with Senator John Cornyn that would create a new state judicial threat intelligence and resource center. It would provide security assessments for local courts and help local law enforcement make assessments about how to keep judges' homes safe and how to keep court personnel safe. It's passed the Senate unanimously. Do you have any opinion about whether or not the House should take it up and whether or not partnering with state and local court systems would help advance judicial security in this country?
Senator, thank you. Thank you for your work on that. My opinion will be is that any judge that we can keep safe, whether it be in state or the federal bench, we should keep safe. To that end, I'll tell you, judges make decisions that are life-changing, sometimes to themselves. So 50% of the time, someone is upset with the judge's decision, right? Yep. Whether they win or lose. And that's something that we need to keep in mind. The justices, judges, the judiciary are the pillars of our country.
I look forward to working with you on protecting and promoting judicial security. Director Patel, reauthorization of Section 702 is something I've previously grappled with, but we've not heard at all from officials from the FBI or the other intelligence agencies testifying about the proposed 18-month clean extension. Were you invited by Chairman Grassley to testify before our committee about Section 702?
What I recall, Senator, is that we in the FBI team have been providing briefings pursuant to the chairman's request. So we've done at least a dozen in the Senate and at least half a dozen or more in the House, including myself and Director Ratcliffe personally. Okay.
I have not participated in or benefited from any of those briefings. And doing oversight on the reforms that were put in place and how closely they're being followed is critical to my concluding whether or not I'll vote for an extension. Director, I have to ask you one last question. You attended the Olympics in Milan. How much did your trip cost, and to what extent did that help you carry out your mission as director of the FBI?
I greatly appreciate the question, Senator. As you know, the FBI and DHS are responsible for the security of the Olympics, the World Cup, the F1, the Super Bowl, and everything else. We had 250,000 Americans travel to Milan. We're proud that we stood up our jock there and had 0 major security incidents involving American citizens. And what we did was we purposely planned that trip around the Olympics because, as I mentioned in my opening, the top cyber criminal from the CCP was housed in Italian custody. While there, we were able to work an agreement, an arrangement to have that individual expelled from Italy instead of going back to China, like has so often happened in places like Serbia. Mm-hmm. And so we accomplished that mission, and we kept it quiet, and that individual was returned to America 2 weeks ago.
I was concerned that just before we went to war with Iran, a whole group of FBI agents were terminated, about 10, who were reportedly analysts with expertise in handling Iranian counterterrorism, fluent in Farsi, long experienced. I know there's ongoing litigation, but have you replaced them? Was there a reason for their dismissal? Do we have the capabilities we need to protect the United States while there's an ongoing war in Iran? The public reporting as to the reasons for their dismissal I found deeply troubling.
Well, as I've addressed earlier, I don't believe the public reporting is accurate. What we did do for the first time in FBI history is stand up the Iran Threats Mission Center that is housed inside the FBI with our Iran experts, including intelligence and analysts and agents. And we have seen a 47% increase in the arrest of Iranian spies.
Do you disagree that there were 10 Iran specialists dismissed right before the war began?
Yes.
Senator Hagerty.
Let me go in. Senator Patty Murray, Vice Chair of this committee. asked how many agents have been reassigned immigration. He said 0. Let's listen to the next question.
From the Marshal Service, and more than 1,000 ATF agents are spending their time on immigration enforcement. That has really pulled critical, highly trained assets off of work to keep our communities safe from drugs and guns and other threats, and I find that deeply disturbing. Now, Director Patel, I want to ask you about a number of extremely troubling stories recently about your leadership and temperament and what's happened to the FBI with you at the top. And in response to all the concerns about your leadership, instead of righting the ship, you've taken to polygraphing your employees to scare them and attempt to rat out leakers. There are reports that you're using FBI resources to investigate journalists for reporting what's going on, and that is absolutely not what this committee intended when we funded the Bureau. So can you commit to this committee today that no agent hours have been pulled from other work like counterterrorism or violent crime investigations to work on matters related to negative press about you or your personal lawsuit?
Senator, I greatly appreciate the question, and I can tell you unequivocally, this FBI is targeting and investigating no journalists. This FBI is targeting no journalists. The Obama and Biden administrations targeted dozens of journalists, sent out 1,200 interviews.
I didn't ask you about the Biden administration. I asked if you can commit to this committee that no agent hours have been pulled from other work.
We have not done so.
Okay, well, there are reports that are using FBI resources to investigate journalists. You are saying to this committee today that that is not true.
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, well, let me just say, Director Patel, we need a serious budget, but we also need serious leadership. And I will say this, there is one clear priority in Trump's overall budget, and it isn't law and order, it is war. Because while Trump is proposing cuts to programs that really do keep people safe, he wants to increase war spending by $500 billion. And I don't need to tell anyone here we are not going to bomb our way to safer communities. So I intend to help rip that budget up and write bills that keep families safe. But beyond that budget, we need serious leadership at the FBI that the American people can trust. And I am deeply concerned about the reports that your leadership has not been serious. We need somebody at this agency who's focused on solving criminal cases, not passing out branded bourbon or jetting around the globe. Your job is to be reachable. And I know Senator Van Hollen asked you about this, but I got to say, if you want to pass out liquor or pop bottles in a locker room, stick to podcasting, leave law and order to people who really do care about justice and appearances. That is really critical. And it's what I am really deeply concerned about, and so are many people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can I respond? This is what real leadership looks like at the FBI. Every one of you was given it. This is what's happened under my tenure at the FBI and the Trump administration. 20-point drop in the homicide rate, 45,000 violent offenders arrested last year, twice as many as 2024, 2,450 criminal gangs disrupted. That's a 322% increase from 2024. 6,900 child victims have been located since I've been in the seat. That's a 144% increase. 2,900 child predators and human traffickers arrested. That's a 70% increase. And we've arrested 8 of the top 10 most wanted fugitives in the world in 14 months. That's twice as many in the 4 years combined. That is what the men and women of the FBI are doing, well-resourced. Everyone should take a look at this. If people want to continue the baseless, fraudulent, false personal attacks at me, that's great. Keep the target on me, as I've always said, but the mission has never been better.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just respond to
Senator Murray.
I appreciate the work of our FBI agents, but leadership, serious leadership, is a concern. And we are seeing the pictures of passing out branded bourbon and what happened at the Olympics, and jetting around the globe and all of the rest of it. And that, I will say again, Mr. Chairman, is of deep concern to me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Fisher.
Patel, we are now more than 2 months into a war with Iran, a leading sponsor of terrorism. And we have already seen at least 3 terrorist attacks related to that war, including one at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, Michigan, where a Hezbollah-inspired attacker rammed a vehicle into a synagogue, holding approximately 100 young children. And yet the FBI has not yet put out an intelligence bulletin about the threats to the homeland resulting from this war. Something that is, as I think you know, usually standard action in coordination with the National Counterterrorism Center and DHS, and is absolutely essential to ensuring that state, local, tribal, and territorial private sector partners are prepared for these threats that we are seeing and actual actions that we're seeing. So my question for you, Director Patel, just to confirm, has the FBI, in coordination with NCTC and DHS, issued a joint Homeland Threat Intelligence Bulletin to state, local, tribal, territorial, and private sector partners on the threats from Iran and its proxies as a result of this war?
I know we have pushed out numerous PSAs, and I believe through the ODNI we have spoken collectively on the matter, but on the synagogue attack, the FBI directly coordinated with the synagogue 3 weeks before and provided training, which the synagogue themselves stated helped prevent the loss of.
No, I agree with that. Certainly, I have a question later, but that was a good thing, absolutely. But is there a coordinated bulletin going out to all the entities that I mentioned? We have not found that bulletin. We have not seen that. That has been prior practice for the FBI. I'm wondering why this is different this time. That's my question.
So what I'm saying is the FBI sent out PSAs to all our state and local partners, and I'll check with ODNI, but we should have sent out a coordinated, collected message out on that front.
Well, if you could forward that to me, because we have not seen that. So I'd appreciate that if that's the case. If you could forward that to our office, I would appreciate it.
Senator Peters, is a PSA the same thing that Senator Peters is asking about?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
We'll see. I'm, as ranking member of Homeland Security and Government Affairs, Chairman Paul and I, working in a bipartisan way, Chairman Paul, have requested a committee briefing about these threats, about the threats related to what's happening as a result of the war in Iran. About a month and a half ago, we're still waiting to get that briefing from the FBI, and we're the Committee on Homeland Security in the U.S. Senate. Can I get a commitment from you that we will get that briefing as soon as possible?
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you. Director Patel, for decades, the FBI, in partnership with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, has played an absolutely critical role in helping both state and local election officials defend against threats to our election. The FBI briefed election officials on both physical as well as cyber threats. It's helped political parties and campaigns secure their communication systems. That has investigated foreign influence operations, and it's investigated threats against our election workers. And the work was bipartisan, it was technical, and it was trusted over those years. However, today, when we look at what the FBI is doing, it seems to be somewhat different. In January, the FBI seized more than 650 boxes of 2020 election materials from Fulton County, Georgia. In March, the FBI subpoenaed records from a 2020 election audit in Maricopa County, Arizona, an audit that itself actually reaffirmed President Biden's win. And in April, the Justice Department demanded that Wayne County, Michigan, the largest county in my state, turn over ballots from the 2024 election. So, Director Patel, my question is, why should state and local election officials trust the FBI to support them in actually keeping our elections free and fair when the FBI recently appears to be more focused on supporting baseless speculation and debunked conspiracy theories about both the 2020 and the 2024 election?
Well, two things, Senator. Thank you. As to the execution of legal search processes, we went to federal and state magistrates, and like we do in any case, and received ruling of probable cause to advance any investigations we're working on. As to the overall security of the election, that is of primary importance with us, which is why we at the FBI and me have installed ECCs, election county coordinators, in every single 56 field office that I have. We've also stood up a national security, election security post at headquarters for the upcoming midterm elections. And so we are continuing to keep that a priority and collect information as it comes in from overseas and also around the country.
Well, that was my follow-up question there. I mean, but, you know, what we've been seeing, some of these actions here are ones that are related to these debunked theories. But our officials want to know what is going to happen going forward. They're going to want to ensure that state and local elections are indeed going to be free and fair, and folks are being protected by the FBI. You mentioned a couple of initiatives. What is the main message that you want to tell right now to election officials all across the United States that the FBI is actually going to be their partner to ensure, as we have seen in the past, free and fair elections that have occurred every single election in the United States in recent history, that it's also going to happen again this year?
That's why we've prioritized and stood up these ECCs. That's why we've prioritized and stood up these national coordination centers. And that's why we're hand in glove embedded with CISA and DHS to ensure the integrity of this upcoming election. We have prioritized that. We have flexed more resources to that, including the personnel I've shifted out to the field. So they're not just at headquarters, are working on election security and election integrity around the country.
Well, as you come before the Committee on Homeland Security, which I appreciate your commitment to have that briefing, we're going to want to do a deeper dive into that, and I would hope you'd be prepared to do it at that time, and you could commit to doing that.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Denver Riggleman, it is really difficult watching these hearings because it feels like the lawmakers are living in two separate realities. There's the one where Kash Patel is a man facing all of these very serious allegations about his competence. There's the one where we are witnessing politically motivated investigations into Donald Trump's perceived enemies. And there's the one on the other side where the FBI has never been doing a better job, never been more effective, and is cleaning up the political mess that past administrations have made. It's really confounding.
You know, I've been on here a lot, Katie, and I love talking to you, but there's a few things because I've been on both sides, right? And I was usually a little bit more confrontational than the other individuals, I think, that sat in Congress a little longer. But the first thing I noticed, as soon as he gets in trouble, he paints himself as a martyr. And that's the first thing I noticed when somebody's doing this type of, this sort of trying to bob and weave, is that as soon as somebody says, hey, you've done this, well, did you look at my placard? It's one of the weakest. Immediately, we're not talking about your placard. Obviously, you don't have a good answer for what I just asked you. I don't care about your placard. And second thing, past performance is indicative of future performance. Kash Patel doesn't tell the truth, Katie. And I think that's the thing that's interesting to me, is that the first thing I'm going to ask, well, you said you were in Italy because Italy had China's CCP lead hacker, in custody. Well, if he's in custody, why are you there? And if it was so important for you to be there, why were you drinking with the U.S. hockey team? Because shouldn't you be actually on watch if it was that important? That is a common sense follow-up question that should be a bit of a face smasher. And the other thing, too, is I'm going to believe Brian Driscoll over Kash Patel any day. And so when you're looking at this, it's almost like this sane washing sort of just everybody's all kind and quiet. We have an administration out of control. When he talks about decentralization and you look at these statistics, where are those actually baseline numbers coming from? What are your sources on that? Every time he says something like, well, I would like for the exhibit, I want to see the sources on what you just said, because right now we're not seeing these exact numbers. And so I watch these individuals. I don't know if their staffers aren't preparing them with questions through a law enforcement liaison. If they don't have an FBI liaison that they can call out immediately, they should be calling everybody there. And as soon as he talks about Iran, oh, for goodness sakes. Right? So you've backed into the fact that there's Iranian sleeper cells? Is that what you're alluding to? Who are they? What are their names? What are the names of the people that weren't fired? If you said they were fired, how many people do you have there now? And don't they have a list of the names of the people that were terminated? That's the first thing that should bring out. So, Katie, you've noticed it. You've identified it. This is actually the sane washing ridiculousness is it's really hard for me to watch.
Denver, it's really good to have you. Thank you for joining us. I know you had to run at 3:30, and we got you in just in time. Thank you. All right, Tom Dupree, I'd like you to pick up on that, because it is it's difficult. It's difficult to hold these two worlds in balance, one where everything is normal and fine and very effective, and one where this is very scary and very concerning.
Yeah, and look, I hear what you're saying, and I take the point that we have a situation where the questioners are proceeding down one track and the FBI director is answering questions on another track. But at the same time, it's possible that both sides' points have some element of legitimacy to them. In other words, the Democratic senators who are pushing him on the excessive drinking allegations have a very fair point. I mean, I think Senator Murray was exactly right, where she said, I respect all the work that the men and women of the FBI are doing every day to keep our country safe, but I also have concerns about your leadership. Very fair question. At the same time, I think in fairness to the director, he did fairly put the spotlight on the results that the FBI has been accomplishing. To be sure, you could question the results, you could push him, you could ask him, as Denver Riggleman was saying, about the basis for those statistics, but at least that would be a valid way of measuring how the FBI is doing. Are they, in fact, keeping us safe? So I think there could be some elements of truth in what both sides are saying at this hearing.
Chris, weigh in.
Well, I would certainly question where these statistics are coming from. They seem, completely fabricated. Listen, I talk to current and former agents nearly every day, and that's not the ground truth we're getting from anybody. Since this is, an appropriations committee, where they should be asking, where did you spend the money last year, and what are you going to do the same thing this year? When we talk about redirecting agents who work intelligence and counterterrorism to walk foot patrols in Washington, D.C., FBI agents are not cops. Those positions are funded, by Congress for intelligence reasons. So, they're taking congressional money and using it in a way that they shouldn't be. Maybe only a third of the time, but they're duties that the FBI agents weren't supposed to be doing. How much does it cost every time you fly around the world with your girlfriend, getting in the G5 jet, and the man hours for your security detail to fly with you, and the lodging and everything else that goes along with it? How much does it cost the American taxpayer for us to provide 4 SWAT agents to protect your girlfriend who lives in another state? And so many other, incidents of fraud, waste, and abuse, because he's not a serious leader. He doesn't know how to lead an organization. He doesn't know how to carry out a mission or inspire people. And we see it playing out every day. This is not one controversy. It's been a series since he got into office. And it's just demonstrative of the fact that he's unfit for the position. And listen, it was irresponsible for the president to appoint him, irresponsible for the Senate to confirm him. Now it's negligent for anybody to allow him to stay in this position, because as we come up to the 25th anniversary of September 11th, we know what could happen to this country, when struck with a major crisis. Kash Patel has not been able to effectively respond to a minor crisis. Can you only imagine if he's left in charge when we are seriously hit? And as a reminder, we are at war with Iran right now, and they have significant terrorism capabilities, cyber capabilities, and espionage capabilities. Those are the things that the FBI works, and it's their bread and butter. So, there needs to be a change.
Carol, in the course of your reporting, are you hearing concerns about response time, readiness, that there's a change in posture under the leadership of Kash Patel?
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much.
Yes. The answer is yes. Not because people aren't throwing themselves at the job, but because people are human beings. And once you've lost 2 people next to you in your squad, you can't do the work of 3 people. I've had so many sources describe to me their pain upon learning that they're now going to be walking the streets in Minneapolis or in Portland or in Las Vegas looking for immigrants to arrest who might be illegal or might be in an asylum process and therefore removable, so that the government can meet Donald Trump and Stephen Miller's quota of X number of immigrants deported per day. That's not what the FBI is in charge of. And Chris so perfectly described what the bread and butter of the FBI is. And the fear inside those units is, while we're not doing this, while I've lost X number of colleagues, how well am I going to be able to pierce this threat on the horizon or see it before it strikes?
Carol,
Iran is perhaps the most worrisome because we know from previous criminal charges and a trial that recently just happened in the Eastern District of New York, we know the numerous times Iran has been able to get cells into the United States, hire essentially assassins, and try to target specific people, including then candidate Donald Trump, for assassination. So it's not figment of our imagination or overactive imagination. It's a very real threat, and it's what the FBI is trained to do.
So I know you're so plugged in. You're following a lot of the dismissals and a lot of the changes. When Kash Patel is talking about whether people have been reassigned immigration cases or immigration investigations, when he's talking about Iran teams not getting fired, is this spin, or is he being dishonest to the committee? Is he lying in front of Congress? Can you say?
I think I can say in a broad brush way, Katie, and I want to be very careful and precise. In a way I do not think the FBI director is. My colleague and I, Ken Delanian, have reported numerous incidents of firings, of removals, of people being told they're going to have to be polygraphed at the direction of the FBI director. We stand by all of that reporting. We have no qualms about the corroboration and the degree of affirmation we've gotten from multiple sources, from reviewing other materials. We have no concern that those things are correct. And yet the FBI has denied them before we went to press numerous times. The FBI, just to remind, denied that Kash Patel was going to the Olympics for anything other than a business trip, that it was a business trip. On the record, the FBI spokesperson said that it was a business trip. We all know what it actually ended up being, a drinking trip for a hockey fan, perhaps the biggest hockey fan in America. We know that unit, CI-15, had numerous members removed, multiple agents, and up to 12 total people, including support staff. I wonder sometimes if it's semantics that we're getting back from the director or from the FBI sort of press office, but the fact of the matter is very clear, and we don't have any issues with the reporting we've done on these stories that I'm describing to you.